Okay, so how's everybody doing? So this is the day for all those that have been patiently waiting, that have been following not only the channel but the beginning of River Road and when I first built the brewery flat. If you go back, if you want to see all this, that just go to the homepage videos and scroll back chronologically, and you'll find I think there's 5 or 6 parts to this. So now we're finally here. So now you get to see it get painted. And before I do that, though, I just want to preface with a couple of things. So somebody mentioned about all the pencil marks, the draft marks. As you know, I draw right on my flats and buildings as I build. So this all comes off easily with an eraser, right? So you just give her a couple of rubs and a little wipe of isopropyl alcohol and she's all gone. It's going to get painted over anyway, so if anybody wanted to know about that, that's how you remove the marks. They come off easy. Additionally, I want to pull these light boxes, okay? You can see I have them all here. There's 5 of them. And there's little lenses in them. And the lenses pop out. Okay, they're held in by the retainer box here. And then these slip over and they actually hold the lens in place. So that way I can put them back on without the lenses. Okay. And then paint them all, and then in the end when I put the lighting in I could just pop those bezels off and then put the lenses back in and she's good to go. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to clean it up quick off camera then and then get it ready, and then I'm going to be using all Tamiya with the airbrush for the first phase. Okay, and I'm going to be cutting in all the shadow, like all the engraving. Everywhere you see an engraving or an indentation or a cut or like even details around these doors, it's all going to get cut in with, in this case, a raw umber. And like I said before, this is just any, like raw umber can be whatever you desire your version to be. I just use black and red brown. Okay, so now I'm going to take some that sky gray, but this has like 50% white in it, and I thinned it down again another 50%, very thin. If I can show you. See how transparent that is? This is super thin. Okay, I'm going to start working it on again. You want to fade to white. White's a tricky color to paint scale because, you know, it's not even a color, right? Much to people's surprise, white is not a color. Okay, so now I want to show you something, an effect that you can achieve if you have, like I say, a decent compressor, like in this case a 2-horse contractor, right? You won't be able to do this in the same way with a, you know, the standard airbrush compressor, the ones that they call, you know, they sit on your desktop and they vibrate and generate a lot of heat and a lot of water. That's about all they're good for in my experience. But when you got one that you can crank the PSI up, in this case to 60 psi. Okay, I'm going to crank up my pressure. And I'm going to show you how you can strip away layers now to the underlying layers. Remember the umber that's under there? And I want to do that along the base of this building. I'm going to do that now because if I don't like some of it, I can tone it down with the whites, like the lighter white color later, like I fade it over to blend it away somewhat. Okay, so I'm going to use just straight 99% isopropyl alcohol at 60 psi. And I'm going to show you how you can strip away layers to create additional effects, okay? Okay, so here's another sample of this pressure washer technique with just 99% isopropyl, 60 psi. Now, if you remember a little ways back, there's quite a bit of umber under this pipe and around this vent, right? So let's watch what happens. And if it's too severe, it doesn't matter because you'll see later that I can put a light, very light white over and it'll blend it out and leave some texture there, like an illusion of layers and so forth, okay? So now I can tone that down later when that dries. I can cover that up completely, or I can just blend or feather some of it away with a little bit of white worked in. Okay? Okay, so here's another example of toning down some, paint anomalies that you might not like, or blemishes or runs or whatever. With some thin white, you can blend it away, like in this area here. You can hit the door a little bit, see? I mean, I might change the color of the door just to show you, what you can achieve with just staying in a little bit longer, see? See how it blends nice too? And how quick it is. The one thing about airbrush is the effect you can get in the ground you can cover fast, right? You shall just work that. And you want irregularities, right, with a big surface like this. Even if even if the prototype is pure white, pristine, like an aircraft hangar or something, for a big oil company, whatever, they look boring in a model. There's the big one color shiny thing, Like, let's add some character and feel to our models. Okay, so moving right along down to this kind of feature area, which I really like, and I have an opening in the trees where you can see this little scene from a few angles because it really sort of signifies the the passage of time, which I like to model or add to my buildings, or when I find a building, I like to have that in there because it's really indicative of reality, right? Like sometimes when we model, we just think of the moment. Everything. This is what it looks like in the moment, but every building has a passage of time character to them. Sometimes just a simple, large, flat brush will work wonders. This is just white, right? That white that I showed you. 71.270, which already has a hint of color in it. Okay. Okay, so here's a long pan view. I can't fit the whole piece in, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take some of this concrete, which is a derivative of earth in the Vallejo water-based version, and I'm going to show you another little tip here for softening the edges of acrylic when you do this kind of thing, and it works in a lot of situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stab in some earth. This side's done pretty much. And I'm just going to take a little spritzer bottle and just let it have its way. Let the paint have its way when you introduce water to it. It'll do things that you're not even capable of. That's the beauty of this wet on wet method. Okay, so here's a little bit of a closer look at some of the weathering and shades and so on. You can see the bottom of the base of the building. So this is a wet, grassy, almost swampy area back here. So there's a, I took a little bit of liberties with some earth tones. It's mostly all black in the photos, which seemed kind of strange to me, but that would be mildew and moss. But I, obviously added my own, creative license to some of that, which I kind of like, just to enhance it and add a little more, because there's going to be grass in some areas growing up against it. I'm going to mask off these vents, those vents, that vent there, the doors I'm going to revisit still, and I'm going to do some white stippling, a little more white, and touch up sort of flaky paint look, like very subtle though. In some areas, like highlights at the end. I think that pipe there is stainless, that whole pipe. I'm not really sure though, but it might be. I'll have to revisit the photo. Then I reattach that vent on that stainless canister there. I'm going to mask off the blue awning because I think that it'll just look more clean, right? Because it was added later. I like underneath the dock there, maybe a little bit too dark, but we'll see. Look at that stain there, isn't that neat? From the water. The bricks I need to pick out. I'm going to pick those out. I may mask off that vent there, we'll see. And then this is looking pretty good, that door. Maybe a wash on that bay door there. And she's pretty close. And then there's some yellow railings on the very top, which I'm going to build as a separate model that goes along the top. There's sort of a party deck, because it's this section of the breweries is the modernized part at the front of the building. This is what it looks like at the back, but it's very clean at the front, the prototype. So we don't see that on the model, of course. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way it's shaping up. It's starting to click a little bit here now. I'm just almost there, but we'll see. Just being patient. Sometimes it helps to sleep on a project like this too. Like to take it to this stage, let it sit, and then just actually, make sure that's in focus there. Just, make sure that it's, that you're comfortable with it, right? And that's the beauty of paint is you can add your own artistic expression to it, right, to enhance it in the model, because after all, it is your world at the end of the day, and you have to live with it. So, but I'm pretty happy so far with how it's turning out. Okay. Okay, so the masking phase. You can see I've been having fun. I actually enjoy this process very much so. And it's just because, well, part of the fun of it is peeling it all off, like once you've touched up and put your colors in, you know, like with the vents and doors. And I'm going to be cutting in like stains, like sort of umber rust stains, which I can soften later. Just so they're nice and straight. They're really thin ones, you know, off the pipes and air conditioners and so on. Some items that were up, there was like I noticed just near the end here when I was doing this, I went and revisited my photograph of the prototype, and there was an old generator sitting outside here, and it was there when I first photographed the location. Then when I went back, it was gone, but there's this dark stain on the wall. This door here was just a sprayed water with just a stab of blue, and it ran into there. I just, you know, decided to leave it because it looks just fine the way it is. So I won't need to touch that. The doors are masked off. Those would be gray, and then some of these vents would be a lot of grays here, and then white around this window, and then this awning, which is probably the newest addition to this building. It looks like it was added in. I don't know what the business is on the other side. I think there's maybe 1, 2, 3 businesses here, possibly 4. It's a really large warehouse. This is the back side. Of course, you don't see the front. I didn't model that, right? So it's a backdrop flat. So. Okay, so now I'm going to take some XF79 linoleum deck brown. Just let that umber blow through. I'm just going to hit one of these with a little more rust than the other. Okay, so time for some final little details. And what I'm going to do is, well, I'll show you a pic of the scene. I just want to flesh out a bit with a few minor little details. Okay, and there's two signs. There's one on that particular door and one to the left. So there's 4 doors, only 2 of the doors have the warning signs on them. Where did I get all these little decals? I got them from this right here. HO Scale General Electric -9 44 CW. It's all the data. Number 87925. It's a really excellent sheet from Microscale for data. I mean, you're not going to use all this unless you're in the business of producing -9s, but a lot of nice little decals there for little signages like this and placards and so on. And then actually I'm going to use some of the little silver parts for the little rings. There's 4 around each of this life ring that I made out of 227 tube. Just cut a wide piece, about sliced 1/8 off or whatever, and then I just wrapped it in 1/16 rod, pinched it, glued it, let it dry, wrapped it, and then just cut it flush and clamped it together and sanded it up rough, so I made a little buoy. And then I have some thread here that I painted blue for the line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt this on camera. I'll slide this off the pencil, slide that underneath. If you take some thread and then just stretch it with 2 clamps and then just paint it with some acrylic paint, it'll stiffen the thread up real nice and straighten it out so that you can actually shape it, and then you can just dab a bit of matte medium on it later for positioning it or whatever. So this will hang off the railing a little bit like that, and then I'll tie it off to this life ring, and then these will be the little I'm just going to add a couple of little buoys. And what I did here was I just took a very small drill bit. This is 1/16. You can drill out 1/16 if you start the hole first like this. Just poke out a starter hole, and then of course just take a very small drill bit. In this case I think it was a 0.5 mil, and then drill it out like that, just the full length of the drill, and then I'll cut 2 or 3 out, and then I'll be able to thread this line through and just throw 2 or 3 buoys on. Should look pretty cool, Okay.